The world now knows how the Warriors could lose Steph Curry. Dubs owner Joe Lacob gave his response, and he said, "Relax, we're not gonna suck."
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, we got a lot of energy on this Friday, or whenever you're listening. It is great to be with you. That is the beauty of podcasts. And if you're checking us out on YouTube, give us that thumbs up, that like, and that subscribe. This is Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Charlie Walter, formerly of 95.7 The Game and KPIX in San Francisco, covered the Warriors for their championship run in 2022. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sport stops sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That is right. There's something for everyone. Every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Joe Lacob went 40 minutes with Tim Kawakami on the TK show. I'll have the Chuck Notes version of what was said between those two. Plus, Anthony Slater with a really good article on the inside of the hiring to bring in Jerry Stackhouse and the main reasons that Stack is in the Bay Area as an assistant coach. But let's start with the big news from the last 48 hours. Steph Curry, obviously, if you have not heard, has said that, the tone of I want to be a Warrior for life is, it's still very possible, but it depends on what's next to me on the floor. Steph Curry was asked point blank, how would you feel about riding off into the sunset like a Kobe or like a Dirk Nowitzki on a team that's not ultra competitive? And he said, I wouldn't like that, to be honest with you. It'd be very tough to stomach and to have that happen. But the big thing that he said that was buried at the end of every single article out there by the national media was, I don't think that's a possibility, or I don't think that's going to happen. So he believes this team still has it in him. And Joe Lacob does as well. He was on that TK show today. Kawakami, man, he gets the people going. Like the stream if you're blocked by Kawakami. That's a good way to send this out to the algorithm. It'll get the most likes we've ever had as a show. Everyone's like, I'm blocked by Tim. But he gets the people going. He drives the engagement, and Joe Lacob went on the show and gave him some good stuff to work with today. So he brought up the Steph Curry question very early, naturally, and asked Joe Lacob, have you heard of this? What are your thoughts to Steph saying if you don't put a winner on the floor, he could potentially leave? To which Joe replied, obviously he wouldn't want to be on a bottom feeder. Who would? No one wants to be on a team that's trash. Went on to say that there are no such thing as windows. Every Warriors fan right now is using the term window. The window is closing. The Steph Curry window. We hear it in any sport. Windows, windows, windows. There are windows. Windows are up there and over in the kitchen, but there's no windows in sports per Joe Lacob. Every team is breathing. Every team is changing. Every team can win in different ways. He's not expecting this team to fall off anytime soon. He has the money ready, the assets engaged, and is confident Steph Curry will not be leaving because he is going to help put a product on the floor. He's going to do anything in his power to put a product on the floor that helps the Dubs contend for a championship. In fact, he said point blank, he thinks next year's team can contend for a championship. And if you don't think the Dubs are going to be good, he'd like to have a direct word with you.
A team is a breathing thing, a living thing. It doesn't just, have this one moment in time that is always going to be that way. It's going to change. And so we're always trying to make it better. We're always trying to work around the edges, or if we have to, work in the middle, if it ever gets to that point. But I don't think we're at that point. We're not a bad team. No one's going to sit here and tell me we're some bad team that, I read some of these people online saying we're going to win 30 games or something. I'm sorry, I don't see that. I don't know what these people are looking at. We won 46 last year. We should have been 50 if it wasn't for some hopefully something never happens again. And I think we just added to the team, made it better, and in fact, it's a little younger.
I brought up in the last few days that Joe Lacob does not want to operate from tax jail. He doesn't want to be in a situation where he's taking on all these penalties, everything that comes with being above the second apron. He does not want that. However, he will pay the luxury tax if they're winning, or the models say that that move will help them win. And he also noted that Buddy Hield, the signing, put them slightly over the tax. So he's over the tax right now, but he's going to do whatever it takes to win, even if that's spending a whole lot of money and putting himself back over. It just has to be the right move, it sounds like. Lacob's really high on Brandon Bajemski and Jonathan Kuminga. So he's willing to make trades, says he will not guarantee one way or the other this offseason. When he was asked, you think you'll make another trade? Said, we could. If we get the right deal. We could also roll with the team we have. We have a full roster right now. We're always looking for ways to make our team better. Just has to work for both sides, because trading is the hardest thing to do in basketball, he says. Everyone has unreasonable expectations. And a lot of the times these GMs bite. These GMs bite where you're trading 3 first-round picks and a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for a Paul George, when you look at it 3-4 years later and you're like, I'd rather have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander right now than Paul George. And we gave away him plus those picks. Like what? And players, like, that's where it gets tough with trading, where the other GMs just demand so much. And Joe Lacob sounds like he doesn't want to deal with them. He doesn't want to deal. Maybe another, let's try this word again, subliminal message to Danny Ainge. You give me a fair deal, brother, and we can talk. But whatever that, I can't say it on Locked On Warriors. Whatever that was, you get it out of here. Aside from trades, you can sign someone. The Warriors can't, though, in their current situation, because they're hard capped right now. So you got to rely on the young people if that's what you're banking on. But he's very high on Jonathan Kuminga and Brandon Bajemski. So I would imagine that he's going to have a tough time giving them away unless it's the perfect deal. And if he had the perfect deal, it would have already gone through. Now, he did say that, you know, sometimes we feel like we have the perfect deal and we feel like we're giving the other side the perfect opportunity to better themselves in the future, or give them the assets that they need to compete down the road, or whatever they're looking for in the trade. And they just flat out turn it down because they want more. And I'm not willing to give them more. I'm not bending that way unless we think it helps this team, unless it goes to the models and says the Warriors will be better now, a few years down the road, and in the future, the foreseeable future, if we make this trade. Very data driven. So he's high on Bajemski and Kuminga. Also likes the fact that this was really the first time he was able to use the mid-level exemption. He said that, I believe, and you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, Kelly Oubre was a mid-level exemption guy, but nonetheless, it really is irrelevant right now. He's just excited about 3 real veteran role players. I'm excited about 3 real veteran role players with completely different roles. I think if you're a fan and you expect Buddy Hield to come in and average 18 points a game in 30 minutes and be the replacement for Klay Thompson, which were the original articles that were coming out, you know, splash buddies. And hey, he steps in for Klay and takes over that role. He takes over the shooting role, but that's what he is. He's a role player when it comes down to it. Someone that is going to split time with the other 2 guards in your system. The starter being most likely Brandon Bajemski this season, because he's better, in my opinion. Kyle Anderson, another role player, slows it down, IQ, good passer, system guy. If he fits into the system, you know, sometimes in this offense, you like to get a little snappy. He's not necessarily going to do that, but he does make good passes and moves the ball quickly. So you had those 2, and then a wild card, because he's got to be healthy. Let's not overlook the fact that he is dealing with lumbar issues, and that is in the back, and back issues can get a little dicey. Played 30-something games last year. DeAnthony Melton. But if DeAnthony Melton is healthy, that is a great addition for the Warriors. Perimeter defense, good in transition, just an athlete. They got some good players. Championship contenders, like Joe Lacob saying, we'll see. We'll see. He's doing his best to get everyone to drink the Kool-Aid. I'll say that. But I do like the fact that if the Warriors are in a spot where they have a competitive team, he's willing to do whatever, as long as it doesn't crush them in the future. He's willing to spend whatever to get back in that tax, to put a winner on the floor, because this is a competitive dude, and that's what you want as the owner of a franchise. You want someone that is a straight up fan, that does not see it as a business, does see it as a business, but just wants the team to win. Coming up, it feels like the Warriors are trying to avoid a doomsday situation. When is the soonest a legit doomsday could happen? What is my definition of doomsday? Those answers are coming up. All right. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the summer gets to the dog days, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That is right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Deep down, I think all Warriors fans know that a doomsday is very possible. Steph Curry even used that word, possible, when asked about his future. It's possible that I'm not a Warrior for life. Joe Lacob, Mike Dunleavy, the decision makers in this organization, they have got to be right about their data and their models that they run that says this team could push for 50 wins. You heard Lacob say it earlier in the show on Kawakami's podcast. He thinks it could be a 50-win team. Reality is the over-under set at 43.5 right now. That's what the Vegas computers think. The ones that I sometimes think are time travelers, because you get 174 as the over-under in a basketball game, and it hits 174 on the dot, or 173 or 175, and just makes the people go crazy. They love the thrill so much that they keep coming back. That is what scares me a little bit. 50 for the Warriors, 43.5 for the computers. But Lacob said he'll offer assets, he'll try to make trades to make this team's better. So they have to hover around being a very solid basketball team. If they're not, if they're just not good, if the Warriors are, as the kids say, if they're cooked, I will go on the record and say they're not. But if they were, then just forget Steph wanting out. It's your only option. He said it. Pitchforks. I mean, it's doomsday. It's doomsday. It is the last situation you want. Rewind to February. Klay Thompson was in some deadline trade rumors. And with the way contenders are willing to spend at that point of the season, imagine what Klay Thompson could have netted you. It's a completely different situation than Steph Curry, because Steph Curry is still top, on two hands, top this in the game of basketball. You're seeing it in the Olympics. But it's like the MLB trade deadline. You don't want to be caught holding the bag. The windows, we go back to it. He says there's no such thing as windows. How many times am I going to say that this show? This team is breathing. It is changing. Faces change. Even if it means Steph Curry. And I don't think it's going to happen. Let me say it for the 9 million times so I don't get comments saying, you want Steph Curry. No, I don't. I'm just saying, if you are below 500 nearing the deadline, Steph Curry's not thrilled, and the return would be huge. That's doomsday. Just that decision alone. Even if you decide to keep him, that decision is doomsday. It's the last place you want to be, because deep down, everyone knows that's a really hard reality to face. Any Warriors fan does not want Steph Curry to leave on the wrong note. And the wrong note would be a dynasty that's dead. If the team's competitive the next couple of years and they just don't get it done, it's hard to win championships, but they're competitive. They're in the playoffs every year. They're a 4 or 5 seed. They give you tons of great memories as a fan. I think you can live with that. You can live with that and not take the assets and never trade him. And he either ends up a Warrior, you sign him to another extension, or he decides to retire at 38, 39. He just doesn't want to do it anymore. He's accomplished everything he's done. But even if he just signs with another team, decides he wants to go back home and play where his dad played in Charlotte for 1 season or whatever, and then be an honorary Warrior retiree when he comes back for 1 game. We see that all the time. But if he doesn't do that and just stays with the Warriors, and they're competitive. Like I said, I think you can live with that. That's why I say you just need to avoid doomsday. Keep Curry happy. Keep spending the money and sending the assets and finding a way to work your models, Warriors front office, and keep the man happy for as long as he can. Keep this thing moving. Keep the pulse just boom, 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 ever so slightly. Because as soon as it flatlines, you gotta do something. I beg of Joe that the assessment of this team is right. And I think it's a crapshoot. It's like rolling the dice. I don't know if anyone truly 1000% knows heading into this season what this team's ceiling is, nor what this team's floor is. But I beg, for the sake of sending Steph Curry out on a good note, because selfishly, any Warriors fan in the United States of America, the Philippines, wherever you're a Warriors fan, you don't want to see Steph done wrong. You do not want to see him go out without an opportunity to go for another one. And Joe Lacob has said time and time again that that's the team he's assembling right now. He thinks this team could get better. Like, he'll mortgage a little bit of that future. He alluded to it. If this team's going to get better now. But if it's trading Bajemski, it's trading Kuminga, it's trading draft picks, all for Lauri Markkanen, and their computer systems don't say that it's not going to make us better today, nor is it going to make us down the road. Why would we make that trade? But God, it'd be great to not only, I mean, seeing Steph get another is obviously going to be tough. You got to be a realist out there. Teams are getting better. The timeline is slowly shrinking. I'll call it the timeline, not the window. It's slowly, going like this, ever so slightly. But I'd at least love to see him have a team around him that gives the fan base some hope for the next 2 years that there's a realistic shot the Golden State Warriors could once again be hoisting that trophy. And then the rest comes down to, hey, is Steve Kerr the best coach for the job? Hey, does the Stackhouse hire move the needle? Hey, do these three veterans come in and play their role? How good is Brandon Bajemski going to be? How good is Jonathan Kuminga going to be? But I hope they at least got the right nucleus in there surrounding Steph Curry to where this team isn't awful. Is that fair to say? Because that's what doomsday would be to me, is if 15, 20 games in the season, you just know it's not working anymore. And I don't think that many people out there believe that's going to be a possibility. And I think that's why people aren't panicked about this quote Steph Curry said that, yeah, I would potentially leave if it was a bottom feeder. I don't think Joe Lacob's going to give you that. I think you have to give Lacob and company the benefit of the doubt for the teams that they've put on the court consistently over the last 15 years. I say 15 years. Let's go more like 13. But with that being said, the last 5, it hasn't been a thing of beauty. Take out that championship run. I mean, your ceiling was going into Game 7 and needing a historic performance from Steph Curry at Golden One Center to beat the Kings in the opening round of the playoffs and making sure they don't light that beam. That was the highlight of the last 5 years, aside from that championship run. But at the same time, you can't exclude a championship run. There are organizations out there that have never won a championship. I mean, God bless our guy Brian Day, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago. He's a Pacers fan. How do you think he feels? How do you think he feels about his team? And I hate even saying it because you want him to retire a Warrior, but there's an easy way to do it. And Joe Lacob's alluded to it. Keep on winning. He thinks they're not going to suck. So let's keep the positive mojo going on this Friday or whenever you're listening. Coming up, introducing you to an assistant coach that was brought in to make sure this team is not a bottom feeder and never loses Steph Curry. Every summer, you got to get out to at least one Major League Baseball game. They're a great time, especially if you're in San Francisco. Get on down to Oracle Park, and while you're heading down there, download the Gametime app if you don't already have it. It's the best. There's nothing better. Pick that specific matchup, wait until around first pitch, head on down, because you save up to 60% by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Anthony Slater had an article on what brought Jerry Stackhouse to the Golden State Warriors. If you thought it was a little bit random, like, hey, Jerry Stackhouse, great player, what's his connection to the Warriors? It's Tobacco Road. It's the rivalry between the Tar Heels and the Blue Devils. Jerry Stackhouse was a UNC star between 93 and 95. Mike Dunleavy, obviously, the GM of the Warriors, started Duke between 99 and 2002. So during that time span, they did not overlap. They never played each other in that rivalry. In the NBA, however, the small forwards squared up 14 times. Dunleavy's team won 9, though Stackhouse scored 50 points more in the matchups, and they became friends and had mutual respect from that point. Friends may be a strong word. The words used, mutual respect, was born. This summer, they found the Warriors coaching staff found they needed some infusion. They needed some different voices, and both agreed to finding a former NBA player that had a commanding personality. That's where Jerry Stackhouse comes into the mix. Had experience just coming off his contract at Vanderbilt, actually was fired from Vanderbilt, and said, you know, if I had fulfilled my entire Vandy contract, Stackhouse would have been 9 or 10 years removed from the NBA. He may have not gotten this look. Said the timing could not have been more perfect. So Terry Stotts, it sounds like, was brought in to be the Warriors' offensive coordinator. Talks about revitalizing the motion offense and just adding in some new wrinkles. Jerry Stackhouse, it sounds like, is the new Mike Brown, the team's defensive coordinator. Stackhouse was in Las Vegas during the early portions of the Summer League and met with some of the veterans, Kuminga, Looney, attended workouts for Andrew Wiggins and Moses Moody, and made it clear that part of the reason Stackhouse is here is to develop all the wings on the roster. That's the position I played, Stackhouse said. I've sat in that seat. I've been there. I understand what they're going through. From a young guy looking for a contract to a guy whose game is transitioning as you get older, I'm an 18-year veteran. Hopefully I can come in and help motivate and inspire and help these guys take the next step and take advantage of these years with Steph and Draymond Green, maximizing the back end of their careers. And it's interesting because during that 2022 title run, we heard so much about Mike Brown and what he meant defensively. The coaching staff often credited the high level of defensive accountability that Mike Brown instilled in his players. You talk about what got into Andrew Wiggins in 2022. Maybe it was Mike Brown. The timelines overlap, that's for certain. But Brown left for the Kings. Draymond Green's locker room voice, I guess, has been diminished slightly because of those self-inflicted mistakes that we all know about at this point the last couple of seasons. It's hard to take someone as serious as a leader when they've done things that very much question the ability of leading. Is that fair to say, some of those things? I really like the move because Draymond Green is one of the, not looking at ages, I'd say top 3, top 2 most seasoned veterans on this basketball team. I would guess second. And with that, Steph Curry, who's first, doesn't have the biggest voice in the world. You know, his actions speak louder than his words. The biggest competitor works his tail off, leads by example, not rah-rah. Jerry Stackhouse was brought in to be a booming voice. Also, the Michigan ties. Draymond Green, who is from Saginaw and went to Michigan State, watched Stackhouse for the Detroit Pistons as an all-star in 2000 and 2001. Stackhouse said, I think we're kind of cut from the same cloth as far as competing and having that edge. How he approaches defense and the things he does play well into, how I want us to guard individually and the technique and the toughness, it goes a long way when you have somebody that exudes all those things. When you're at this level, it's all about pride, Stackhouse said. I was a guy that never wanted to be in film session, constantly having my name called out for not doing what's right. That's the approach I want to take from the defensive standpoint. Give these guys principles and techniques to adhere to and be able to judge them for those things once we establish what they are. He's going to hold the players accountable defensively. I love that. Get your ass in there, Jerry. Get in there and hold them accountable. Andrew Wiggins, if your defense is not what it was a couple of years ago, then why is it not? Because you're still an athletic freak. We want that same type of defense. Draymond, lead by example. We need you on the floor. Podziemski, get better defensively. Kuminga, you got a lot of talent, my man. We're going to figure this out and figure out what makes you tick as a defender. We're going to get tough. We're going to make this work. I love it. I'm fired up. I think it's big time to get a former player in there that, although Stackhouse at this point is no spring chicken, he does feel like he's from a closer generation of basketball players than even like a Steve Kerr, which doesn't make a ton of sense because they overlapped in there. Steve Kerr just a few years older than Jerry Stackhouse. But for whatever reason, Stackhouse playing until, let me get the exact numbers. I'm going to guess over-under game. Let's go with 2000, maybe 7 or 8. If he was an all-star in 01, 02, I'm going to guess like 2008. So Jerry Stackhouse' final year in the league. Forget that. 2013. He was in the league for a minute. Now, 2008 was the last time that he was receiving votes for an award when he was ranked in the top 15 for 6th man of the year. But yeah, rookie of the year, came in 4th, a 2-time all-star, received MVP votes multiple times in his career. Like, he's someone that you can respect as a player that doesn't feel like he's 49 years of age. He's not that much older than Draymond Green. So for him to be like a little, I don't want to say mentor. I don't think Draymond needs a mentor, but just, a second voice that says goose fraba, slow down, keeps him on the floor. I love that. Steve Kerr, meanwhile, played till 2003. So they overlapped for a large portion of their career, but Stackhouse just, I don't know, he gives off that young energy. And the fact that he's coming from the collegiate game where he had to recruit and deal with younger players and their development, that makes you pretty excited about what he can potentially do defensively with the likes of Kuminga and Podziemski and Trace Jackson-Davis and guys that do have some talent in different ways. Kuminga has the ability to be an incredible on-ball defender if he can figure out some consistency and it's not the Jonathan Kuminga experiment that is like, what the hell is Kuminga doing here or there? Why is he out of position? Podziemski's the other way around. I think he has great instincts defensively. I just don't think he has nearly as much talent naturally to be a good defender as Jonathan Kuminga. And then Trace Jackson-Davis, a good rim protector, something that maybe Jerry Stackhouse wasn't known for, but it's just going to be good to have another voice in the room. Mark Grandy said it on our show the other day. Last time the Warriors brought in an assistant coach, they ended up winning the championship that year. So we will see if there's any correlation there. All right, Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, thumbs up, give it a subscribe, and leave a positive review on the podcast app. Peace.